WWE concern over the Bloodline, WrestleMania moving to Saudi Arabia, and my review of AEW Dynamite. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
With Cody finishing his story, the Attitude Era vibes returning, and Michael Cole's cathartic commentary, WrestleMania 40 told us one thing. Paul Levesque's a great guy, and always has been. The Booker T racism storyline, being behind the Montreal Screwjob, burying a decade of young wrestlers and politicking backstage, that was all Triple H. Totally different person. But sometimes a little bit of Hunter comes out in Levesque, like calling Fightful and PW Insider not credible sources when asked about Drew Gulak's release in the post-Backlash media conference. WWE apparently felt immediately bad / saw a strategic error and wanted to keep the main wrestling media outlet sweet, and privately apologised to Fightful's Sean Ross Sapp. Sean said he wanted a public apology though, accompanied by a selection of fine French cheeses. So WWE, fair play, did exactly that, with SRS posting a picture on X of a cheese board from Fairfield Greenwich Cheese Company and a handwritten note signed by Triple H, Nick Khan and more, stating how much they appreciate his work. Damn, that was a close one. Always better to be safe than sorry, I guess. Ultimately though, well done WWE, that was a really mature move. It looks like the start of a beautiful friendship. Sorry, I'll stop. That was too much. Those puns were too cheesy. Backlash didn't just have Levesque burying wrestling news sites. It also saw the WWE return of Camacho, or Tangaloa to you New Japan hipsters. Him joining Solo Sikoa's new Bloodline faction was a big surprise, not just because everyone thought he was still in New Japan, but because another Anoa'i family member just recently signed with WWE, the former MLW World Champion, the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu. Despite joining WWE over a month ago though, he hasn't yet been seen on TV. And according to WrestleVotes, it's because WWE is concerned about him outshining his real-life cousin Sikoa. Interesting tidbit here, sources suggest that Solo Sikoa's recent aggressive streak is part of a strategy to establish him as the main force within this new phase of the Bloodline, ahead of Jacob Fatu's debut. However, some trepidation remains within creative over fear that Fatu's presence could outshine Solo at this stage. But I can't wait to see Solo and Jacob eventually clash in the main event of WrestleMania 42, live from the beautiful, progressive city of Jeddah. Oh my God, it's so progressive! Or should I say, cheddar. Turki Al-Sheikh, the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, has announced an enhancement to the long-running WWE Saudi deal that would come later this month, and that he's hopeful it will involve a major premium live event like the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania taking place in the Kingdom. The announcement might come during WWE's next show in the country, the King and Queen of the Ring event happening on the 25th of May. But now it's time for my review of AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. The show started with Edge in a cold open, setting up his Cope Open, announcing his TNT title match main event against Brody King will be under no DQ rules, and the same elite-focused opening credits as last week. But the biggest new addition to the start of the show was this woman's bosom, who flashed her bra in the opening few shots. Boobs! The Attitude Era really is back. The opening match saw the first in-ring fight of one of Dynamite's main mid-card feuds, Trent versus Orange Cassidy. They had a fun match with brawling through the crowd and Don Callis adding an extra layer on commentary, stepping in for Taz. Trent seemingly had it won with 2 pile drivers and a running knee, but his need to cheat got the better of him. He was caught exposing the top turnbuckle, which let Cassidy expose his own turnbuckle to send Trent into it and win with a roll-up. But a roll-up isn't a definitive end to a blood feud, so Trent continued the beatdown with a pile driver on the steel steps until Chris Statlander and Don broke it up, with Callis walking Cassidy to the back. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes, as I just can't imagine Cassidy in the Callis family. The Elite were then shown arriving backstage, parking in Tony Khan's space, and we heard from Kenny Omega sitting in the ER room, where he announced at Double or Nothing, where AEW started, it'll be the Elite in an Anarchy in the Arena match against Team AEW of FTR and 2 mystery wrestlers. Serena Deeb then somehow cut a wooden promo about real emotion. She explained she'd been away from wrestling so much in the last year because of unexplained seizures. Toni Storm was the complete opposite presence, being great and goofy on the mic. Feels like they're telling totally different story styles. Deeb knocked Storm out though, meaning Mariah May was all alone for her next match against Harley Cameron. Cameron looked pretty decent in her first AEW match for over a year, helped by the smoke and mirrors of Soraya's interference and May wrestling really well. Mariah won, was beat down by the heels afterwards, Mina Shirakawa made the save, but they didn't kiss this time. They just drank champagne. Guess that means a tag team match is incoming. All this stuff isn't really connecting with me. After an over-the-top hype package for The Elite, produced by The Elite, and obligatory local sports team heat and Drake vs Kendrick Lamar references, Swerve Strickland went face-to-face with his world title challenger Christian, where Swerve's own faction turned on him. Christian Cage! Brian Cage! It was right there in front of our eyes all along! Father and son. Strickland had promised last week he wouldn't come alone next time he was confronting the patriarchy, and he brought out his own embassy faction, a faction who, depending on storyline requirements, do or don't accompany Swerve in his feuds. Like last week when Cage was definitely on the show, I saw him wrestle Claudio, but he didn't help Strickland when the patriarchy were tearing a braid off his head. At least the embassy turn somewhat explains away that kayfabe awkwardness. I hope this means we can now go back to what got Swerve over so much in the first place. Him being a badass sicko tweener, not an underdog odds stacked against him face. In the next 2 weeks of Double or Nothing build, I want him to horribly get revenge on everyone, which might eventually include the Elite, as Christian thanked them afterwards, implying their embassy turn was their idea. It foreshadows a mouth-watering clash down the line where the Bucks are softening up Swerve for Hangman to return and beat him. Rocky Romero got a match against Jay White next where, if he won, Tony Khan told him he'd get a shot at the Bang Bang Gang's trios titles. So, on this show we've had Omega, the Bucks, and Tony Khan all making matches. That's too many authority figures. Hopefully the main event angle will sort this out. Romero is so good he got the crowd into his near falls, but White beat him in the end. Pac made the save from a Bang Bang beatdown afterwards, implying Pac will find 2 random luchadors to join him in a trios title feud. Just a quick side note here. Have you ever seen Pac this dry? It's weird. Chris Jericho and Big Bill beat local enhancement talent where Bill did most of the work. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm actually enjoying Jericho's gimmick now. Oh no. Does that mean I too am getting sucked
into the Jericho mid-card vortex?
He said the wrong city on purpose in his promo and set up Hook's return for next week. We got a cool video package on Samoa Joe where he's even scary when he's training. Copeland and Brody King had a terrific TNT title match with King's face covered in blood off an Impaler DDT on a chair on the apron. Also, that's 2 weeks of making people bleed for Edge. If only he had a vampire gimmick to bring back. Copeland speared King off the apron through a table outside. He did the thing! Now do it again. But on fire. And won. But try telling that to Brody, who just sat up afterwards and kept beating Copeland up. Kyle O'Reilly made the save, but it was just so he could get himself a TNT title match in his hometown on this Saturday's Collision. Malakai's pre-produced promo before this was the best kind of House of Black, putting over how he believes Copeland is inherently evil, but he covered it for a family life. He wants to nearly kill him to unleash his true self. Now, I thought that was the end of the episode. Main event match finishes on the 2-hour mark. That's your Dynamite. Instead, though, we got an 8-minute overrun that felt like the last hour of Return of the King. I just thought every segment was going to be the last one, but it kept on going. There was that O'Reilly Edge match set up backstage. Mercedes responded to Willow's promo from earlier, saying she is ready for a match. It's been 2 months since your debut. If you're not ready for now, when will you be? And then the Elite came out for a whole in-ring segment. Thankfully, just like the last 2 weeks of closing angles, it was awesome. Okada said get well soon to Kenny, and Matthew used CM Punk's line about Tony Khan being the best boss he ever had, despite having to beat him up. FTR interrupted to reveal who their 2 Anarchy in the Arena teammates were. Kinda getting several weeks of storytelling crammed into one. Unveiling Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson for a big pull-apart brawl. Eddie was a welcome surprise. He's one of my favourite wrestlers, so I'm excited whenever he's on TV, let alone a main event storyline. And the reveal of Danielson was the best kind of shock that levelled up the whole feud in a way you didn't even know you wanted. As I mentioned earlier, there are currently 3 sets of kayfabe authority figures booking AEW: the Bucks, Kenny, and Tony Khan. This anarchy in the arena match should decide who gets overall control of AEW from Double or Nothing onwards. This week's Dynamite is 73%. Remember Cody Rhodes though? He helped start AEW. Watch me tell his whole story and the rise of Cody Rhodes by clicking the video on the left.